Hey guys, this is Conspiracy Todd, and today we're going to take a look at how NASA has progressed over the past 50 years. We're going to compare the Artemis program with the Apollo program back in the 1969 through 72 and see how far NASA has advanced in their rockets in the last 50 years. All right, I made this little graph here. The Apollo program, 69 to 72. The Artemis program, Artemis 1, which was in November, December of this last year. We're going to compare all these things here. What was the total thrust of the Saturn V rocket? All right, we have 7.6 million pounds of thrust for the Saturn V rocket. What was the total thrust of the SLS rocket?
8.4 million pounds.
Okay, we got 8.4 million pounds of thrust for the SLS. So they've made a little bit of an advancement here on the thrust. All right, total mass at liftoff. What was the total mass of the Apollo Saturn V rocket at liftoff?
According to NASA, fully fueled for liftoff, the Saturn V weighed 2.8 million kilograms, the weight of about 400 elephants.
All right, the Saturn V rocket was 6.2 million pounds at liftoff. What was the total weight of the SLS rocket at liftoff? Okay, we got 5.5 million pounds for the SLS rocket. So the SLS weighs considerably less than the Saturn V rocket, and it has a lot more total thrust than the Saturn V rocket. All right, how much mass did they bring to lunar orbit? How much mass did the Saturn V rocket bring to lunar orbit?
The Saturn V could launch about 43,500 kilograms to the moon.
All right, we're going to convert that 43,500 kilograms to pounds. How many kilograms did the Orion space capsule weigh? All right, here we go. Orion space capsule weighs 20,500 pounds. How many kilograms does the European space module weigh? Here we go. 29,800 pounds. For a total weight of, looks like 50,300 pounds. Let's double check this over here. How much did the lunar module weigh?
33,000 pounds.
So the lunar module, 33,000 pounds. How much did the Apollo command service module weigh? 28,801 kilograms. So the command service module weighed 63,500 pounds. So that's 96,500 pounds. So the lunar module weighed 33,000 pounds, the command service module 63,500 pounds. That is equal to what we Googled a while ago, 95, or roughly. So the Apollo, the Saturn V rocket, was able to send 95,900 pounds to lunar orbit, whereas the Orion was only able to send 50,300 pounds to lunar orbit. The Orion capsule weighed 20,500 pounds, and the European space module, which is attached to it, weighed 29,800 pounds, for a total of 50,300 pounds. So the Saturn V was able to send almost twice the weight to lunar orbit with almost 800,000 pounds less thrust, and it weighed 700,000 more pounds at liftoff. So that's kind of weird. All right, how long does it take to get to the moon? The Apollo 11 mission took the Apollo 11 astronauts 3 days, 3 hours, and 49 minutes to reach the moon. They returned in roughly 3 days. 3 days to get there, 3 days to get back. So November 16th was liftoff, and November 21st, outbound powered flyby burn. So they would burn when they got to the side of the moon here. So from the 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20, 21. So it took 5 days to get to the moon. And Earth return, close approach, December 5th, and splashdown 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So 6 days to get back, 5 days to get there. So the Apollo program was able to get to the moon in 3 days and return in 3 days. Artemis took 5 days to get there and 6 days to return. Habitable volume. How much room do the astronauts have to move around in the capsule? What is the habitable volume of the Orion spacecraft?
316 feet 3. According to NASA,
316
the Orion
cubic
crew
feet.
module has a habitable volume of 316 cubic feet and will be able to carry a 4-member crew.
316 cubic feet. 4-member crew. What was the habitable volume of the Apollo 11 command module?
210 cubic,
210.
featuring according to time.
But they also had the lunar module on the way to the moon. They also had the lunar module to hang out in. What was the volume of the lunar module?
About 160 cubic feet.
210 plus 160 equals 370. So on the way to the moon, the crew of the Apollo crew had 370 cubic feet to move around. Cubic feet. And there was a 3-man crew. Now, of course, nobody went in the Artemis spacecraft, but it's got a habitable volume of 316 cubic feet. Well, on the way back, they only had the capsule because they jettisoned the lunar module. They only had 210 cubic feet on the way back. The Apollo program did. All right, live video feed. Well, the Apollo, they had live video feed from the surface of the moon and also several times from orbit. So it was intermittent. And then if you try to find live video feed from the Artemis program, it's virtually non-existent. It's also intermittent. There's mostly... All right, so here are the results. The Saturn V had 7.6 million pounds of thrust. The Artemis has 8.4 million pounds of thrust. Total mass at liftoff, the Saturn V was 6.2 million pounds. The Artemis was 5.5 million pounds. But the mass to lunar orbit, the Saturn V was able to get 96,500 pounds to lunar orbit. Now that's the command module. The command and service module was 63,500 pounds, plus the lunar module was 33,000 pounds. Now that's not including the rover, which was about 600 pounds, and the astronauts themselves, three of them, they were all about 200 pounds each. And then also their their backpacks or their spacesuits, which also weighed about, I think they're about 200 pounds each. So when you add all that in, you're close to 100,000 pounds that the Saturn V allegedly was able to get to lunar orbit, whereas the Artemis, the SLS, was able to get only 50,300 pounds. So about half of the weight that the Saturn V rocket was able to get to lunar orbit. Also, the Saturn V did it in 3 days. The Artemis or the SLS did it in 5 days, getting it there. 3 days to come back, and Artemis SLS or Artemis took 6 days to get back. And then the habitable volume of the command module and the lunar module was 370 cubic feet for the Apollo program, and then for the Artemis, the Orion capsule is only 316 cubic feet. So I don't know. I think we're going backwards in technology because if they were able to get twice as much weight to lunar orbit with almost, because sometimes this figure is 8.8 million pounds of thrust, but this one website I found, it said 8.4. So if they were able to get almost twice as much weight to lunar orbit with a lot less thrust, and weighing more, the Saturn V weighed 6.2 million pounds versus 5.5. If they were able to do all that with less thrust and weighing more, get more pounds to lunar orbit in less time back in the 60s, then it looks like we're going backwards in technology because you would think that rocket technology would be a lot more efficient with 50 years of advancement, but it looks like it's not. Now, of course, I'm being tongue-in-cheek because I think that the Apollo program was totally faked, but I do believe that the Artemis program is real. So we're we're finally getting to see what it really takes to get things to the moon, not the fiction that we had back in the late 60s, early 70s. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think it's now these are all information that I got from Google. Let me know if I got anything wrong. Anyway, I think it's getting very obvious that the Apollo program was faked back in the late 60s, early 70s. If you compare it to what the Artemis program is able to do 50 years after that. Anyway, guys, what do y'all think? Let me know in the comments below if you think it's possible that the Saturn V rocket accomplished what they said it did back in the late 60s, early 70s, knowing what you know now about the Artemis program. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks. Bye.